Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get on your feet.
Watch me run the sky! And he scores with an unbelievable one-handed tuck-in goal. And the Blues have tied the game on a highlight reel goal. Watch me run the sky! Shoots! Game winner! You can bring out the Zamboni!
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Hello, fellow loungers. My name is Sean Michael Ditch. I'm here with my friend Jason Doc Noyes, and we are leading our podcast, our first initial podcast of the Blues Lounge Rinkside Podcast. Glad you folks are joining us. Doc, are you glad that you're joining us as well?
Definitely glad to be here. And if you guys don't like the podcast, too bad, because it's going to be a lot of fun and get to talk a lot of Blues hockey now and throughout the season. These probably will get more frequent. They will get more frequent once we kick the season off and once we get into training camp and all that. But we wanted to get into some stuff early because of the prospects and wrap up last season a little bit.
Absolutely. And when we start off, we're going to probably do one podcast a month during the off season, and we're hoping around the start of the regular season, maybe even preseason, to do one once a week throughout the season on the Lounge Podcast. And your folks are definitely more than welcome to join us for that in the future. But first, we're going to talk about some things about last year's season. Obviously, we all thought the Blues had a great season. Obviously, they were the division champs of the Central Division, and they had a great year, obviously. And the goaltending shined. Jake Allen, Brian Elliott, even though Brian Elliott went down with an injury. And in all honesty, we got to see a legend of the game don the blue note and Martin Brouwer, which is amazing. And you understand, we've had Wayne Gretzky don the blue note, obviously the best player to ever play the game, possibly even the best goalie now to play the game, maybe. And now that's just pretty cool. Doc, what did you think of that?
It was, because and some of you guys know, some of you don't. I play goalie, and he's one of the guys I always grew up watching and just love how he played. And with getting him, besides having him play on the ice and play phenomenally well and show he could still play so well, he's now in the front office. And that's become a huge advantage to us as well, is to get a guy that's been around and can really help the front office out. And I mean, we have multiple Hall of Famers working for the Blues and big names with Hall,
definitely,
and him and Federico and them. It's just, and McGinnis. It's just awesome to have all that in the front office.
Absolutely. And when I noticed one thing about Brouwer playing when he was playing with the Blues actually looked like they wanted to win in front of him. Because there was a time where they were, obviously when Elliott was injured, Allen was very shaky. But when Brouwer was out there, the boys played like they went out there and just played their hearts out. And they played like they wanted to win in front of Brouwer. And in all honesty, it was sad to see him hang him up, because obviously he's a legend of the game. But at the same time, the Blues' will to win during that time, I think, grew even stronger as the injury to Brian Elliott while it was at a crucial time in the season, because Elliott was playing phenomenal at the time. It was tough to see, and with Martin Brouwer coming in there, it was awesome to see, definitely, and hopefully we can get that taken care of. Okay, I just screwed up. Oh well. Moving on.
That's all right. Just keep going with it. Keep going with it.
And of course, we ended the regular season very strong. Obviously, we won I think we won around 7-10 to close out the season, and we won the Central Division. And we had a first round matchup against the Minnesota Wild. On paper, this was supposed to be a blowout by the Blues. Instead, obviously, another disappointment in the playoffs. Third year in a row eliminated in the first round. Very tough pill to swallow, and you knew change was coming.
Well, and you said it, though, it was coming down the wire even. I mean, the team, I didn't see any part of this entire season this last year as a problem. I mean, yeah, we lost some games here and there we should have won, but really looking at the regular season, I didn't see anything that would make me question that they weren't going to do well in the playoffs. I mean, you had guys
definitely.
A few guys early on that were kind of iffy. I mean, one of the ones that everybody likes to rip on is Berglund, but then down the stretch, he was on it. He was one of the top guys and was right there all the time.
I don't usually harp on Berglund. He's very inconsistent. Yeah, he isn't worth the money that maybe he isn't worth the money that he earns, but come the playoff time, I don't know. I think he has like 6 career goals in the playoffs, and that a lot of players on a roster don't even have that much on a roster. Oshie doesn't. I don't believe he has that many goals in the playoffs. And speaking of Oshie, obviously he was traded for Troy Brouwer a few weeks. I think last week. Yep. He was traded for Troy Brouwer last week, and this was something that came to a surprise to Oshie, but a lot of Blues fans wanted him gone because of his inconsistent play in the postseason. And also, he kept falling down a lot on the ice, as funny as that sounds. But, it just wasn't there. I wished Oshie could have played every game in the playoffs and even in the regular season like he did his rookie year, where the hit on Nash, those 2 hits on Nash where he was just reckless abandon, that's what made Blues fans fall in love with him. And we just didn't see that a lot in the later parts of his year. And those years here with St. Louis.
I think, I may be off because I've never lived. I mean, I wish I've lived this kind of lifestyle as being a hot shot pro hockey player, but I think the pressure may have almost been too much for him, because especially once he went to the Olympics and the big shootout, all that kind of stuff, it put him on such a pedestal. When he came back into the season and beyond, he could never live up to that anymore. And he couldn't put anything together.
You make a good point, Doc. Very good point. I love looking at Oshie's stats right now. He has 443 career games in the regular season and 110 goals and 200 assists. Obviously, what we're missing with that's all in the regular season. He's a big point producer, especially the past 2 seasons for us. You're going to miss that point production in the regular season. Playoffs. He's played 30 games. 5 goals, 4 assists. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but that's really bad.
To what his expectations were supposed to be, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And even if you're not putting all the points on the board, be in the right spot to get other people points. Even if you're feeding passes off, you should be putting some kind of numbers, and just isn't. And looking at some of the other ones, I've got Berglund's pulled up here. He's played 29 games, and he's 6 goals, 7 assists, so he's at 13 points.
Yeah,
but
I'm not asking for a point per game in the playoffs, but you should at least have 50%, over 50%, and that's not even 30% if my math is correct.
Yeah, I'd have to do the math myself. yeah.
Math was not my forte in high school.
But I do think he just couldn't live up to the hype. I mean, St. Louis made him the sportsman of the year and all this different crap. And I do think that, I mean, he was very he was loved in the city, but he also did love the city a lot.
Yeah,
but it's just the pressure, I think, killed him.
Yeah. The pressure was very huge because this city, the team's been so good. They've been great ever since Hitchcock's taken the reins. They've been great, and I just don't see what Blues fans we always wonder every single year, is this the year that they actually maybe go to the conference final or maybe even the Stanley Cup final? And every year we're just let down ever since 2013, where we first round against the Kings. We maybe stole 2 games, but we definitely outplayed the Kings that whole entire series. Maybe stole 2 games. Elliott was hot in that series as well. And then Jonathan Quick stole it from us. Okay, who knows? That's tough against the defending Stanley Cup champions. 2014, we go to Chicago Blackhawks. Once again, defending Cup champions. this is a series where we were just outplayed and maybe outskilled at sometimes. But it was the Chicago Blackhawks. They know how to win. All respect to them. They know how to win. They know how to get the job done. As much as it kills me to say that, because we all hate the Blackhawks, it kills me to say that they are the top team in the division when it comes to playoff time. There is no doubt about it. And maybe even in the regular season. Now this past season, we should have gone to the second round against a Minnesota Wild team that on paper was nowhere near as skilled or as talented as we were. And somehow we just dropped the ball. Or dropped the puck, I should say. And there was 2 games where the 2 games that we won, we outplayed them. We outplayed them, and we definitely deserved to win. The other 4 games, I don't know. Did they just throw their sticks out on the ice and just say, okay, we're here? Who knows? But with that attitude, you could tell that there was something wrong with the team. There was an identity wrong with the team. Is it the coach? Obviously, front office decided there was not a problem with the coaching, and it was the players' problem. It was a problem amongst the players. And with that, Armstrong and Hitchcock said that there was going to be change. And with that, we just learned last week that Oshie was traded for Troy Brouwer. And initially, when I heard about this trade, I was all for it because Troy Brouwer is a postseason performer when his team gets to the postseason. Doc, do you have anything to add?
I'd go back to Hitchcock a little bit. A lot of people expected him to be fired. And the only, I think, and I could be totally off base, but looking at it, the only person that would have made an improvement out of all the available coaches, I believe, would have been Babcock.
Yes.
And once he was unavailable, there was no reason to hire anybody else because they would have stepped down too much, and they wouldn't have gained anything by going with somebody else. But I mean, most teams, when it's a winning issue, that's the first person they go after is they get the coach. But when you've got and a lot of rumors and nothing's totally been proven, but a lot of rumors of issues in the locker room, people not getting along, and maybe it sounds bad. Maybe that's why they sacrificed Oshie. Is he has had not necessarily his fault of his own, but he's been put on that high pedestal, and maybe it was bothering everybody else.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And he was put up on that pedestal since his rookie year, I believe, because of how hard he worked in his rookie year, and especially since the Sochi games. Where, if I'm correct, did anybody else notice Oshie in the Olympic Games besides the shootout against Russia? Did he have any points, Doc?
I'd have to look. I don't remember off the top of my head. He may have had a few because they talked about. I mean, overall, a lot of the guys played well, and I think he at least had a few points in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was all the hype to him was the shootout stuff, and with the new rule changes coming, that goes out of play.
Yeah. Big time. It's 3-on-3 overtime, and after that, there's still going to be a shootout, correct?
Correct. And if there's a penalty, they add a player, so it'd be 4-on-3.
Yeah, it'd be 4-on-3. Absolutely. That makes sense. And with that, they tried this in the AHL last year, and you know what? The game started ending in overtime a lot quicker. So maybe this is a new idea for the NHL to maybe not send the games to the shootout. And I'm all for it because as much as I love the shootouts, the players don't like them. The goalies especially hate them. The fans love them, but you know what? Individual skill shouldn't decide a hockey game, which is why I'm all for the 3-on-3. Yeah.
And talking to an NHL goaltender, talked to Mike McKenna a couple weeks ago, and that was one of the questions we talked about, and he hates it because, those games should not be decided that way. They should be decided as a team and not one person.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving on to Troy Brouwer. Troy Brouwer's stats, he's got 531 games played. He's got 132 goals in that time with 123 assists. He's a point producer, and he was never on a first line as well. So those numbers are very impressive as well for not being on a first line.
I'm very happy with him. A lot of people were really questioning the trade coming in just by name because unless you're really into looking at players from other teams, a lot of people had never heard who the hell he was. But then you start looking at the numbers that are out there, and that makes a big difference.
Exactly. And he won a cup with Chicago in 2010. I thought he won one in 2013. He did not. But he is a proven performer when you need him the most, which is come playoff time. As a matter of fact, in the 2015 Winter Classic, he got the game-winning goal with about 12 seconds left in the game on Corey Crawford of the Chicago Blackhawks. Maybe he has a flair for the dramatic, but we'll see. Hopefully,
and he's sure. Say he's going to be a good veteran guy. Yeah, we have a good mix of young and veteran, but we're starting to tip the boat toward younger in the next season or two, depending on how long he hangs around. He'll definitely be a good asset long term.
Yes, he will. He can also kill penalties. He can maybe be on the power play, which I don't think is a possibility when we look at. I don't think that personally is a possibility when we look at how much offense we could have on a power play. But he can definitely be a good penalty killer. He can block shots. He can do all the dirty work in the corners, in the offensive zone and in the defensive zone. And this guy's gonna fit with the club, no doubt about it. And Blues fans may not know him now. Asking questions, they'll probably know him by the end of next season. Hopefully for good reasons. Also,
and
go ahead.
The teams, and it's looking at it from a business or a team perspective compared to a fan perspective. You've got the fans love the players like Oshie and others, and they get so pissed when they're traded. But it's not about the individual. It's about what makes the team better and what's going to get them beyond the first round. And I mean, I don't know. I know you're somewhat younger than me. I remember watching the 99-2000 season where they won the President's Trophy, and I expected them at least to be to the Western Conference Finals, and they were out in the first round.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of years of disappointment for me.
To put it in perspective, folks, when the Blues made the Western Conference Finals in 2001 against the Colorado Avalanche, I was 7 years old, and that was the last time the Blues had been there. Obviously, now I'm 21. Doc, how old are you?
I'll be 37 on Saturday.
I'll be 37 on Saturday. Well, happy birthday, Doc.
Thank you.
Early birthday. But yeah, I grew up going to Blues games because my parents were season ticket holders, and they took me to a lot of games when I was a kid. And I got to see Turgeon, Turek, Pronger, Al McInnes. And I look back at those rosters, while I really wasn't in depth, obviously, because I was 7 at the time, but as in depth, I look at these rosters and you look at these players and you're like, how can they consistently not go deep into the playoffs? 2001 year against the Colorado Avalanche, if you could lose to anybody, I'd say it would be them, because they had Ray Bourque at the time, never won a championship until that season. And they just seemed like the team to win that year, from what I heard from my parents and from what video I've seen on YouTube and stuff like that.
And I was at some of those playoff games in that series. I was a partial season ticket holder. I went to some of those. And those were that was a hard-fought series, but at least we were to the Western Conference Finals. It'd be nice to it. Even if we didn't get to the Cup Finals, I'd at least be happy to see that far right now in the playoffs to get us out of the first round, because when you go out in the first round every time, that's when you start really losing fans. You get a lot of frustration building, and I mean, you could tell as soon as the season was over, all the people just royally pissed on wanted Hitchcock's head, wanted everybody's head on this, and it's a balancing act.
Exactly, it is a balancing act. It's not just the coach, obviously. It's everybody involved. And you got to look at everything. They determined that Hitchcock wasn't to be fired, and they decided that changes need to be made to the core. Got rid of Oshie for Brouwer. And other players I got rid of, unfortunately. Barrett Jackman. He's been a Blue since 2002. And he's been the guy on the line for us. He won a Calder Trophy in 2003 as the NHL's top rookie, and he beat out Rick Nash and Henrik Zetterberg for that trophy as well. With that, obviously Oshie's gone as well, You have Marcel Gotch out of there as well, along with McCulloch, who I was hoping McCulloch would stay because he's a good shot blocker, and we didn't really get to see his best while he was here. But he's gone. But Blues fans, if there was one good thing that they were looking forward to this offseason, that we're hoping for one player to resign, that player was Robert Bertuzzo. And they got him for, I believe, 2 years, Doc? 2 years, I believe?
Yeah, that does sound right.
I don't have any paper in front of me to correct that. But Robert Bertuzzo obviously got injured against Chicago late in the season. It was the last away game. It was against Chicago when the Blues won 2-1. So, and it just looked like a freak play. He got tangled up and he just lost his balance and looked like he hurt his leg or something. And, he went down to block a shot and ended up the Hawks scored that goal to make it 1-0, but the Blues still won 2-1. We were really impressed with his physical play, his ability to stand up in front of the blue line at the blue line in the defensive zone, because a lot of players don't do that. A lot of defensemen anyway don't do that anymore in the NHL. Scott Stevens used to do it a lot. Dion Phaneuf is one player that does it. I believe Zdeno Chara does as well. But seeing him stand up at the blue line, that gave a lot of Blues fans, that really impressed a lot of Blues fans. They really like this guy. I really like this guy. I am 100% completely happy with the signing of Robert Bertuzzo. How about you, Doc?
And he is definitely, and he is a big dude. I was had to laugh. I was down at the Scott Trade Center a couple weeks ago picking up some game jerseys and that, and they had his stick was in there, and it was actually taller than I was. I'm 5'9", wow. and the stick was actually up over my head. He's a big dude. He's solid, and yeah, I hope he will see a lot more playing time, and I think he's gonna do well for us.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna do well for us. I hope he becomes at least a top 4 defenseman pairing. But obviously with Shattenkirk and Gunnarsson and Petro and maybe Bouwmeester, he may be the bottom pairing with maybe Lindholm as well. Because Lindholm, he had a great year as well. He impressed Blues fans when he got in a fight with somebody this year. I can't remember. He jumped in on somebody. Oh, man, I can't remember. But that was one of the moments. He can't remember who it was against, what team it was against. But I do remember when he got into that fight, I was very impressed because it showed that he wanted to be on this club. He was willing to stand up for any teammate. And any guy that wants to stand up for his teammate, I'm happy to keep around.
And that's what we need, even if they're not captains or assistant captains, we need some of that kind of leadership and to defend other players, because if you're not defending your own teammates, they notice that and it'll definitely make things a little bit more difficult. Just the signings that we did. I mean, that Armstrong was adamant about getting Tarasenko signed, and everybody expected it, I think, to be go a little bit quicker than it did.
Yes.
But he got married and was on a honeymoon in there. So it's like, come on, give him a little bit of a break.
Exactly. But they got the big man signed. They got 8 years for $60 million a year, which will expire in 2023 when he is 30 years old, making $7.5 million a year. I mean, that's great. They got him locked up long term, along with Leterre, who got a 3-year extension. I was hoping, personally, obviously, I wanted Tarasenko signed. I think every Blues fan did. I was hoping it wouldn't be as big as a number as maybe Patrick Kane or Jonathan Toews, because if you look at their situation, or maybe I should say the Pittsburgh Penguins with Crosby and Malkin, when you have so much money locked up in 2 players, who else are you going to have as a supporting cast? And you see with the trades that the Blackhawks had to trade away. They traded away Sharp a couple of days ago. They're looking to get rid of Bickle. Maybe Oduya is on the chopping block. Got rid of Brandon Saad as well. If you have all this money locked up into 2 players, you're seeing it currently with Pittsburgh. The team's chances to winning the cup are going to be going to get slimmer and slimmer each year.
And Chicago has been damn lucky with how they've done some of their deals. But yeah, they're toward a fire sale, and the Blues have been pretty smart with the money that they're throwing out there. I mean, the whole deal with what's his name going over to the KHL instead. And rumors were that they offered Tarasenko a crap ton of money to go there. He wasn't going anywhere. He likes it here too much.
Mm-hmm.
And the KHL being as iffy as it is, because 1 minute it's operating fine, next minute you hear it's almost broke.
Yeah,
I think the stability here was much better for him, and Laterra deserved what he got as well. But I still think they're being a little bit more conservative because they could have really put more money out to Tarasenko if they wanted to.
They definitely could have. They were making sure that he was going to get signed no matter how much money it took. But glad to see it as how cheap as it is not really as cheap, but to see that it's only $60 million where instead of like maybe $80 or $90 million for the same year span.
And I think time will tell with him, and I'm not nervous about even with having this kind of long-term deal, because you see some guys that once they get that deal, they drop off. He's young. Yeah. He has that fight and wants to play, and especially with building a solid line around him, I mean, we're going to see hellacious numbers for quite a while.
Yeah, you can have many line combinations. Obviously, Laterra, you got Stastny that could go with him. I hope they keep Laterra and Tarasenko together. You could have Schwartz on the side. You could have Steen on the other side. The combinations are endless, really.
And I'm glad you brought up Stastny, though. I really hope he's got to do something, because he, for the money that they paid last year and the excitement that with bringing him in, I wasn't impressed with him whatsoever.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough year for him being on the third line, and he was on the special teams a lot. He was on the power play. That's where he got most of his points, was on the power play. When you're paired, I don't mean no harm to Berglund, but when you're paired with Berglund or Yashkin, a new kid, a rookie who's in the NHL for his first year, it's going to be tough to put up points, especially when you're not getting as much time on the ice as maybe first or second liners. But I'm hoping that he can be at least on the second line, because if he's on the third line again this year, I just don't see how he's going to have any progression in his point total from last year.
Well, I guess time will tell, and I think if he doesn't produce this year, I think you're going to see a big backlash from the fans. I mean, I know the fans don't pay his salary, but that's really gonna hurt the Blues.
Yeah, it's not going to hurt the Blues whatsoever. Also, you can also pair Yashkin with Laterra and Tarasenko as well. I mean, Yashkin's going to get a great opportunity this year. He's going to hopefully he's going to be a full-time on the roster spot. That's what my expectation is. And he could be put up great numbers. Obviously, I don't know if I want to see Backes or Steen get as much ice time as, say, Laterra or Tarasenko or Schwartz, because they're the new identity of this hockey club, and they should have more ice time than, say, Backes or Steen. No offense to them, but they've had many chances to get us further into the playoffs, and you know what? They haven't gotten us there. And we've heard rumors that maybe Steen he's not very positive in the locker room, or, you know, obviously the fight between Tarasenko and Backes at practice at the beginning of the year. You know, we're wondering, is there really something wrong in the locker room? Maybe Backes gets stripped to the sea. Who knows? But I wouldn't mind seeing the younger core step up and have more ice time as opposed to the older core.
Sure, and or let the young guys continue to prosper and don't give them the added pressure of a C on their chest. Yeah. See if Backes can continue to do well, or give it to Steen, but let those guys just concentrate on their play and not give them the extra pressure of being a captain. And if come the season after we need to start changing it around, great, but don't put too much on them for the start. And I mean, there's still time. I mean, there's a lot of people still not signed, lower end guys. We may, I mean, who knows what we may pick up. They did just sign I'm a blank on his name. 1-year deal for $700,000 just the other day.
1-year deal.
Payarvi.
Yeah, Payarvi.
Was signed.
It was a one-way deal.
Yep.
Which means he can't get dropped to just go to the minors. He's got to clear waivers at that point.
So that tells me that they're looking for him to have more playing time and give him some kind of a role.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I don't think the Blues do too much more just because of from the cap to looking at the lines. There just isn't many other places to fit people. And with training camp coming up, there isn't going to be too many slots to put people into. I mean, we had the prospect camp, and some of those guys look absolutely phenomenal. But is there going to be a spot for them come October?
Exactly. Fabry, Jeremy Rutherford tweeted out that Fabry didn't even belong there. No disrespect to anybody else competing there, but Fabry just looked like he was in a league of his own. Even though he's 5'9", 180 pounds, and Fabry is doing what he's doing at prospect camp, this guy could be a serious player in the NHL. And I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Blues jersey at the beginning of the season. Do I expect him to have a full-time roster spot at the beginning of the season? I honestly don't, considering of our roster and our numbers. But if he impresses me, I'm all for to tip my hat to him.
Because you know what, I've seen it before though in past camps going back a number of years. It was one of the goalies. I can't remember who it was. This is going back probably 7 or 8 years. It was in camp. They expected him to be in the AHL, and maybe it was Elliott that I'm thinking of, but they expected him to be in the AHL, and he kicked the crap out of everybody else in camp, and the Blues kept him up. And if Fabry's going to be at training camp, if he just blows everybody away, they'll make a spot for him.
That'll be a tough problem to have, but it's a problem that you want if you're anybody in the Blues coaching staff.
Time's going to tell. I'm counting the days till training camp opens, and the sad thing is it's not long.
No, it isn't. It's just around the corner. All right, now we're going to go down to Florida, where we had the draft last month, and the Blues in the first round had no picks. And some people thought they were going to wheel and deal Oshie at that time. Obviously, nothing happened. But in the second round, we drafted a defenseman named Vince Dunn. And I'll be honest with you, I was shocked by this pick because we honestly don't need defensemen. We need forwards that can score. But we got one in Adam Musil with our 94th overall pick. Hopefully, he's a good goal scorer, or at least a good playmaker to set up goal scorers.
And it sounds bad, and I don't expect unless some of these guys just play out of their head in the next few seasons, I don't expect we'll see any of these guys unless maybe the AHL for a while, because we're so loaded now. Even with the veteran guys, you may roll off a few of those. I think they'll be stuck between other teams. I mean, you may end up with some of these guys in there, but overall, I mean, we're just loaded. The goalie prospects we need to build back up because we kind of have it, but it's not solid enough once we get beyond Allen and Elliott. I'm not confident enough to have anybody else in net other than those two.
Me neither. Elliott and Allen are going to have a great season once again in terms of competition between one another. I obviously don't want to see either one of them get injured. Do I think Elliott should have had more time in the playoffs? I think every Blues fan would be lying if they said they didn't want Elliott to have more playing time. I think I did. I definitely wanted to see Elliott play some more instead of just getting to play in Game 6 in relief of Allen, who was abandoned. Let's be honest. He was abandoned in Game 6 by his teammates. He was hung out to dry. He's hung out to dry a lot for that series as well, especially in Game 3. Maybe Allen was the best performer for the Blues in the playoffs besides Tarasenko. Who knows? But they're going to have great competition come this regular season. And it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the better goalie going into the playoffs again.
But well, at least to this point, both have proved that they can shoulder that responsibility. So it's not like you have to wonder if Allen goes down, can Elliott do it, or if Elliott goes down, can Allen do it? Both guys showed that they can, as long as the rest of the team is in front of them playing like they should be playing. Either one of those guys can take that role without any of us worrying about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I've heard rumors that maybe Elliott wants out of St. Louis because of what's happened at the end of last season. I don't buy that personally. He wants to win. He wants to play for the St. Louis Blues. He loves our team. I just don't see that happening personally. Now, could a potential deal happen around the trade deadline? Who knows? Because he is trade bait. If the Blues need something around the trade deadline, one team needs a goalie. The Blues might need a scorer, God forbid, because we have Tarasenko and we have Yashkin and Schwartz who can definitely bury the puck. Or if they need a missing piece, hopefully they don't. Do we trade Elliott? I wouldn't think they would trade Allen because Allen is the future. He is the future of our goaltending. But then again, I mean, you get, and of course with them just signing the deal with Allen, you're limited in what you can do, and a lot of it will dictate is where the Blues are sitting come trade deadline with points coming toward the playoffs, and if Allen's shouldered most of the season, yeah, Elliott will definitely be one that they can put out to pasture and bring somebody else in, but if it's been back and forth all season between the two as a goalie tandem like they've used so much, I don't know if you can get rid of them. Yeah, definitely. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough decision, and I'm glad we don't have to make that, Doc. But it's time's going to tell. I mean, the clock's ticking to the start of the season. I know we're all getting excited about it, and we're happy to be kicking the Blues Lounge Rinkside Podcast off. This will be the first one, and I know it as you guys listen to it. All our listeners start picking this up. It'll sound a little rough to start, but I know we'll all get into the groove, and especially once we hit the hockey season, and hope to bring some guests on and make it a very very exciting, very fun and popular podcast in St. Louis. Maybe we can have Noonan on for an Asking Rough segment. I'm sure he would love that. Oh, definitely. And pull some of the alumni in that reside in St. Louis, try and get some of those guys and that's see a great idea. Definitely. Folks, Loungers, tell us what you like about this. If you'd like, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can comment on below in the comment section. You can even message me or Doc at any time. Maybe stuff you'd like to hear about, or maybe our director, Johnny Hirsch Bueller, would love to hear as well. But if you'd like to comment or anything, you can definitely feel free to do so. We're available anytime, as long as we're not at work at our regular jobs. That's overrated. Yeah, that's overrated. Our real job is talking Blues hockey, because who doesn't love talking Blues hockey? And as the season gets closer, we'll do these closer together. But right now, just wanted to kind of wrap up last season and talk about prospect camp. And once training camp gets here, hopefully some of us can get to camp itself and maybe either interview some players or at least cover it in person and see what we're seeing out there. Absolutely. Well, I enjoyed this, Doc. Thank you very much for doing this with us. This is our first episode. Thank you, Sean. It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll have a lot more fun at the beginning of the season. Thank you, Loungers, for listening in. And I'm Sean Ditch alongside with Jason Doc Noyes. We are here, and we thank you for joining us. And we'll see you soon at a later date. We'll let you know. And thank you for joining us, folks, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Let's go Blues. Let's go Blues. Watch me let the sky.